to this panel. And we've got an interesting panel lineup here from diverse industry, from service, human HR services to textiles to paper and to automotive. So today's discussion, as it says, it's around driving performance capability in the organization of tomorrow. And we have always been talking about, a future fit workshop, a future fit or future ready workforce. And as organizations are grappling with this topic of how do we ensure that in the new ways of working, we have a very future fit and future ready workforce, I think we would be having an interesting discussion today with this panelist. And as moderator, I always look forward to such sessions because there is a learning insight, and in one particular capsule of 30 minutes, you are able to get insights from 3 different kind of organizations. So let's have a focused group discussion, and let me start this panel discussion by saying thank you to each of you. And it's not a very good sitting, in fact. I have to look here and there. Let me live with this struggle and let me start this session. I hope you're all looking forward to it. Say yes. The round of, yeah, okay, good. So I have a choice to pick the person whom I want to hear first. So maybe I'll pick you, Sushant. So the question is that, with the growing change, and we talk about VUCA world, we talk about Bani and so on, we also know that the workforce has to be constantly, continuously developed for future. So what has been your experience around this? How does talent development efforts of your organization align to ensure that we have a workforce which is ready, which is skilled, and which performs the best? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for putting that across. Let me just go ahead and take on a couple of points. When I go ahead and look at it, look to provide the response, I will look at it from perspective of within our own organization, and then more broadly with the multiple organizations that we go ahead and work with. When you're looking at change, the change that is going ahead and getting driven through, and we are all well aware about it, the biggest point which is coming on today, which people need to be ready for, is the learning agility. So when I look at learning agility, okay, one would typically go ahead and relate it to the cognitive ability of the individual, which links in best back to how much or how well can that individual go ahead and learn. So we talk about, say, just the learning agility, and we are relating it to, okay, what's the numerical ability of the person, how's his deductive reasoning, how's his inductive reasoning, and so on and so forth. But there are 2, 3 other components from an agility standpoint which are going in and getting very important. So you start looking at results agility. Is the person agile in terms of thinking about end results and working towards it? You start talking about people agility, ability to go ahead and collaborate. How quickly can the individual collaborate, be able to pick up the task and be able to take on? And then how's the person having his own change agility? When I'm referring to change agility over there, the ability to be able to identify change that is going in and happening and be able to build for it. Be able to see the end, what is in it for me, what is in it for my team, what is in it for the organization, be able to communicate those ideas and be able to go ahead and carry it out. So when you're looking at learning agility, just don't look at it plainly as the core cognitive ability of the individual. Start measuring out the result agility, the people agility, as well as the change agility that that particular individual needs to carry in with him. That's from my perspective.
So you spoke about learning agility and the various components of it, be it change, be it people, be it cognitive, and so on. And how can organizations focus on agility to enhance the capability of workforce?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll move to you, Sanjay, if you would like to share some very concrete examples about the success story of your organization, where your talent development efforts have, what specific efforts you have taken in your organization to enhance the capability and performance of the workforce? And you have a very diverse workforce.
So first of all, I am from Mahindra First Choice Wheels. This company is into used vehicle space, so to speak. This industry is still in nascent stage in our country, and hardly 20-25% is actually occupied, the market share is occupied by the organized players. So I just thought to tell you the characteristics. And because of that, what is happening, we have to do a lot of experimentation. And we have to charter in the uncharted territory, as they say. So, you know, you do not know that what will work and what will not work. So you have to do a lot of experimentation. You have to allow people to fail at times, okay? But come out with some good ideas, so to speak, okay? So we tried with, you know, LMS platform, and we have LMS platform. Then we have tied up with other platforms as well for specific training needs. We are also conducting classroom training programs for technical training and all. But as goes my experience, what is really working well is empower people. Pick up the top talent, the best talent, who have hunger to work in a ambiguous, unknown territory, so to speak, put them there and let them learn. And that learning is very first-hand learning, authentic learning, okay? So this has been our approach. We call it 3 approach, 3 education, exposure and experience approach. But necessarily when we put people, you know, to the new project, so to speak, to the stretch goal, we give them a stretch goal. We also do sort of, you know, we also provide them coaching support. Because this is an area where, you know, people have to deal with unknown, uncertainty. So there is a like, you know, fear to deal with unknown. So coaching actually comes quite useful there, where coach would kind of hold a space. Coach would say that, okay, you are allowed to become vulnerable. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to say whatever you wish to say. But let us work on your assumption. And let me help you to unstuck yourself.
Quite interesting. I think you gave very good conceptual, you know, insight, and you gave quite a few, you know, insights around coaching, around technical trainings, and so on. I think it's very important to have exposure as well, and also, you know, empower. Empowerment, I think, is an essence here. So I'll move to the next. You know, when we talk about such kind of, you know, challenges that we have around focusing on performance and focusing on the development of capability, we definitely speak about what are the barriers here. So I'll now move to Pooja. Yeah. So Pooja, how can organizations navigate the potential barriers? We have worked in various organizations. So can you please share your experience what is your own experience around organizations, you know, who have these barriers? What are the kind of barriers they may have, A, and what can be the strategies around it to overcome those barriers? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pooja, and the company that I represent today is a company called Trident. So I'm the group CHRO for Trident, and we are into manufacturing. And the reason I'm giving you this context is because this is as traditional as it can get. So it's a manufacturing organization, it's labor intensive, we have more than 15,000 people. And I think when it comes to performance and development and capability and all of those things, we are in the thick of it simply because of the diverse population that we have. There is blue collar, there is white collar, and there is all sorts of things. I think the one thing that predominantly can be a potential barrier is when we equate the idea of performance and development to ratings and skill gaps. If that's the definition that we have, then sooner or later, your performance management system or whatever it is that we are using to drive performance is going to run into bottlenecks, because nobody likes to be relegated to one rating, Nobody likes to hear about the kind of gaps that exist in their skills. So I think it's very important that for any performance management system to be extremely inspiring, to be extremely forward-looking, to extremely not being a post-mortem of things, but telling people what can be done differently as opposed to what they did not do well. So I think that is a big chunk. The other thing which I'm going to add here is that, we've all in the since morning, and I think being the HR fraternity, we are a lot into concepts, etc. We've spoken of the idea of passion and hunger and ownership and all of that. And those are great traits for any employee base to have, right? I mean, who doesn't want a team that's inspired and, they're self-motivated, etc. But I think taking a very pragmatic approach to where we are today in terms of the job market or in terms of the India Inc. scenario that we see, I think the one conclusion or the one observation that I've seen, and this is more so post, the entire fiasco of COVID, is that, people are not for you, people are not against you, they're just for themselves. So that entire concept of what's in it for me, when you're talking about performance being equated to pay for performance or variable pay, etc., those are all things that we have to sort of tie in for more reasons than one, and I'll come to that as well. So when we don't do that, when we expect that, so-and-so should move forward or they should be doing more simply because of, citizenship and ownership and all of that, it's a very idealistic approach, and I think we all wish that were true. Unfortunately, because it's not, I think it's very important to be able to have that clear, transparent sort of a process in which people feel that A, they are not relegated to a rating, and secondly, what's in it for them. So that becomes extremely important. So that's my observation of the past, let's say, year or so at least.
Thank you. What has been your experience, Sanjay, around these, that the barriers, what are the barriers towards enhancing the capability of the workforce, and what are the strategies you have employed in your organization to overcome those barriers?
So let me tell you, I was fortunate to actually be part of transformation of 3 Tata companies, and currently I'm working with a Mahindra company. So as goes my experience, that there will be different phases of resistance whenever you will go for transformation, because transformation is counterintuitive. It is non-linear. Okay, so people fear uncertainty. People fear that they are going to lose their control, their power. People fear that maybe I don't have the necessary skill. So how to handle such kind of thing? That is also a question. Okay, so, my experience has been that, first of all, create the group of apostle of transformation, as they say, who are firm believer, who believe that, yes, this transformation is not any political agenda, but it is in the interest of the larger, interest of organization. And then create success stories. So we used a model called D, that is dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction with the status quo, multiplied by V, that is shared vision, multiplied by F. F is first step. So when you arrive at the first steps, then you create those improvement projects, which are low-hanging fruits. And then you create the success stories around that. And then people who are fence-sitter, they'll also join you. They'll start believing that, they'll start rather knowing that, I don't have any option but to join this movement and enhance my skill, change my own belief system. Okay. Those people who are like, hell-bent not to change themselves, good luck to them. Okay. So they'll get marginalized. Okay. So that has been my experience. I mean, but, leadership commitment is very, very important. Creation of this, this nuclei of the change agents, very, very important. And, leadership, I would say, leadership job to be seen as fair and transparent is very, very important.
Thank you. You spoke about, change agents, creation of change agents when we drive some changes. I think, and the leadership vision, I agree with you fully. So let's move to another topic, and this is, I think, one of the favorite topic of HR is about, the new ways of working or hybrid working. So in the current hybrid structure, and my question will be to Sushant and Pooja, that, uh, while many organizations have just gone lock, stock, barrel to the previous thing, but I think things have changed a lot. There is a lot of flexibility in the required by the workforce, and organizations have accepted that there is some kind of model of smart working, smart hybrid, and so on. So in this kind of new ways of working where you're working from anywhere, you're working from hybrid, and we also know that for performance, it's so important to be connected. So what has been your experience, and how do you deal with this in your organization to ensure there is a collaboration, there is connectedness, while people can work in hybrid situation? Yeah.
May I? Yeah. So I think two things there which are extremely important to understand, and this is where it comes to post-COVID, how things have changed, etc. The one thing to not be naive about is to expect that the level of collaboration, the level of teamwork, the level of even productivity is going to be exactly the same as when it was when there was no hybrid working. I'm going to be unpopular voice in the room here, but the fact of the matter, and all organizations are telling us, come back to office, back to work, and all of those things, because I think it's now becoming very, very obvious that being in office, being physically present, etc., that level of collaboration, a hybrid sort of scenario may not be able to match as such. So that does not say it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. It's just one of the things, in my opinion, to accept that this is where it is, right? So that is point number one. The second point, which means how do we tackle it differently? I think the previous panel spoke about a big challenge for managers, etc. I remember from my consulting days, and I heard somebody's from McKinsey here, and they would probably resonate with that. I was working with Gallup for a very long time as well. We used to fill weekly timesheets, right? Which means we just tell us how much time have you spent on each project, what is your timesheet. I didn't believe in it back then. I don't believe in it now, that how can you relegate somebody's productivity with the amount of time that they're spending, except that at that point we had no option. Now it's the other way around. Those folks are not in front of you. Now you absolutely don't have the option of tracking time, doing all of those things. So in a hybrid scenario, if you were to make things more collaborative, more outcome focused, I think it will have to become more what is the things that you're hoping people are going to accomplish, as opposed to the investment of time that they are making in the work itself. So wo 8 ghanta, 12 ghanta kaam kiya, all of those things, the heroes of those times have now something to show for when they are not really in front. So I think that is the second part. The thing that I'm not touching, which is the most obvious things, I think technology is going to be a great aid in that. Without technology, I think none of this would have been possible. You even have collaboration tools, you have coffee chat tools, you have anything and everything, you have a tool for it. So if that is something that really helps people in their need for social well-being, then so be it. But I think that naivety of assuming that things could be at that level may not be completely accurate.
No, I think very good point which you called out in terms of being able to measure work outcomes a lot more better today, which is going to help us enable that. See, there are some very extreme positives also which have come from the hybrid workforce. DEI, which has been a big topic all the time, it's taken a turn on its head just because of the ability to go ahead and be able to bring in the work from home or organization culture back into organizations. Now, the piece which I would want to go ahead and call out is, yes, is work from home good? Is work from home bad? If you're able to go ahead and define work outcomes and are able to measure work outcomes well, it's fine to go ahead and operate in whichever is the model that you want to go ahead and operate. Now, the bigger piece which really comes on is the manager themselves in terms of how do they go ahead and measure people for being able to work from home. And the three key parameters which managers need to go ahead and take on, and I wanted to just go ahead and leave it behind for people. Hey, does the individual have the ability to go ahead and get the work done by themselves? That's one. The second part of it is their ability to go ahead and collaborate with others when they continue to work remotely. And third, and most important of it, are they able to manage their own well-being? If you read a lot of books, you'll see that relatedness, the reason we come into the workplace is because of relatedness. We are getting people whom we engage with, we learn from, and there's that sense of belonging which is there within the organization, which you're trying to grow within. And that's one thing which leads to that mental stability and comfort and environment which people are looking forward to. So how do you go ahead and measure these three components? Ability to work independently, ability to collaborate when remote, and then being able to take care of oneself, and then being able to balance all of it together. That's where I'll leave.
Thank you. I'm also seeing the time here, so I would like to definitely give time to you for asking some questions. So let me be a bit faster. I have one question for you, Sanjay. How can any discussion of HR be without AI? We always talk about AI. So the question is around AI and automation. So with this advent of AI and automation, we also know that technology will play a big role. But how can the human element, be there? And what is your own experience around using it to ensure and nurture human relations and also capability and performance?
Very good question, very relevant question, I would say. So, though we are also in evolving stage, so to speak, so far, AI-enabled system, the usage of AI-enabled system is concerned. However, as I can see that, thanks to all these technology-enabled system, the authoritative regime is collapsing. The control freak mindset needs to kind of come to end. And what we need to inculcate is something earlier very counterintuitive to male-dominated sort of society and organization, that is authority and control, and we'll have to move to something very softer, which earlier male would not hate to kind of display that kind of behavior. These are empathy, compassion, care, emotional intelligence. So what is happening, we like it or not, the machine learning, the AI-enabled system, they are going to take the routine job. And what will be left to us is A, the cognitive work, and B, because of this, the human stress will be created, which will be induced by, of course, the AI-based system. So how to take care of that? How to help people to become calmer and productive? There comes the role of all these empathy. And by the way, these things are now no more a glamorous concept. These are the hardcore skills desired in today's time. So that is my...
Yeah. Thank you. I think I would, before we go to the questions session, one line from each of you, because people here who are sitting here are representing organizations, and any inspiring line for them to take away so that they can implement it in maybe in their organization to leverage the performance of their team, of their workforce.
Inspiring or not, I'm not too sure. I know that each organization is dealing with a slightly difficult reality today when it comes to people. And I think since we've been talking about AI, what's the one thing that tops artificial intelligence will always be natural stupidity. So it's very important to understand that how much we go about talking about technology. We are not only, so I'm coming from a manufacturing organization, and I can tell you that even in a traditional setup, so to speak, we are not tech-enabled, we are tech-led. We have to be tech-led, we have no other choice in the matter. However, once we go behind a particular thing, I think, and I take equal blame for it, and we've been consultants and the concepts we give, and suddenly it's all about AI, etc. I think it's important to also see it in light of what it really is. Even today they are talking about 50% of activities that can be automated and AI enabled. They're only talking about 5% jobs that can be totally automated, which means that it's not black or white. It's not to say that, robots are going to take over our world, etc. So people are, they're going to continue to be extremely important for reasons which Sanjay also said. I think nobody can take those traits away or that value that a human being brings. But it's important to understand that the two go hand in hand. So even in our culture, what we are doing today, That is what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do it at the level, again, that is also to say that it is the work of the leadership team to be able to do it. It's the work of a select few to be able to do it. In our experience, if these things, and you spoke about transformation and change, if these changes were to come to life, it takes pockets of excellence in the entire organization to help it come to life. A few handful people sitting here, sitting there, will be unable to do this. And then, as the joke goes, that either you do proper change management or you do change management. So that's the only way that one can hope to sort of survive. That's my
Thanks,
inspiring
Pooja.
line.
Thank you. Yeah, so only one line. We are having this time constraint. So one final thought. Thank you, Pooja. Sushant,
Yeah, I'll just go with that. AI is there, it's going to continue, and we need to live with it. It's like your calculator. View it like your calculator and adapt your organization for it. But at the same time, context is going to constantly keep changing for every organization because of the environmental changes, the global changes, the change in the people environment and all of it. So be ready for change, and that's going to be the only constant for you.
Thank you, Sushant. Your final thought, Sanjay.
So my final thought is that, the world is going to be more and more uncertain and diverse. Learn to be comfortable with that. Your success, your happiness does not lie in being competitive or aggressive. It lies in being more and more appreciative of this fact that we have to cohabitate, we have to coexist, and we have to grow together.
Thank you so much. And now we have got 4 minutes left, so we can definitely take 2 questions. So let's open this house for Q&A. Yeah, so we have got hands raised. So there are 2 hands raised. Maybe we can give mic to, and there are 2 people here. So anyone, yeah?
Good evening, ma'am. I'm
Good evening.
Commander Aditya Verma. I'm from the Indian Navy. So it's an interesting topic, right? We're talking about capability development. So I'm on the fringes of, the millennials. The Gen X. So now you have the millennials, and the main focus right now, the induction generally, which is happening maybe in industry or even in the armed forces anywhere, is Gen Z. So, okay, it's a different generation, but there are some very peculiar, I would say, characteristics of Gen Z. They've got limited time span of attention. So we also, took this initiative. We've got LMSs implemented. We want them to upskill. We want them to learn. But at least what I have observed, it is just an observation, is that the amount of interest maybe the generation has to upskilling is a bit of a challenge. I may be wrong, but at least this is an observation which I have. I would like to hear the panel's views on this particular thing. Is it a reality or is it a figment of my imagination? And if it is true, how are you all looking at handling this? Because even incentive-based learning somehow is not maybe motivation enough, and especially for traditional organizations.
The question is that you have found, this is your observation,
Yes.
that the new generation or Generation Z lacks the interest for learning.
The will to upskill.
Will to upskill. And do you share this observation, or do you have any other observation? And then
I can add.
whatever,
I can
yeah.
add from experience,
yeah.
if you allow me. I think when it comes to whether it's Gen Z or whatever, the one thing that is also true about them is about the kind of involvement and the kind of ownership they see from the what's in it for them is a very big thing. Because let's be honest, it's not about the age-old loyalty, I love you, and ownership and things like that. It's very clear about what's in it for me. I think to that end, at least in Trident, we've had remarkable success in helping them learn simply because we realized that the traditional principles of even 70, 20, 10, all of that we've been talking about may not directly apply because they don't have a skin in the game, the what's in it for them. So what we have done as learning for Gen Zs specifically is actually asking them about roles that are attractive to them, about works, about projects that are attractive to them, and then we've literally pushed them on the deep end of the pool. Go do it. So the risk is ours for 6 months. The upside is completely yours. You get to own it. You get to run it like an entrepreneur. Your mistakes are all forgiven for the first 6 months. And that sort of learning not only brings with it pragmatic learning, which is outside of the bookish knowledge, but also brings with it ownership. And to our advantage, it brings to us our second level of leadership and high potentials, and we get to see exactly what Sanjay ji was mentioning, people who don't have a problem with ambiguity, people who don't have a problem in not knowing what to expect because they're going with the flow. So in at least our experience, making them do it is probably going to be the best way of in helping them learn, really. So that's one way of looking
Thanks,
at it.
Pooja. I think we can take the second question, and maybe you can add if you want to add anything.
I'd like to
Yeah.
request the last question,
The last question,
audience,
yeah.
to please make it very, very brief and quick.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for a very insightful discussion. I've been listening to all the panel discussions. This is one common topic that's surfacing again and again is the advent of AI and how it's going to cause disruption in the HR industry as well. But I'm looking for a very concrete answer. While the discussions have been going on and all the panelists are talking about that AI is something that we'll have to adapt to, or it's going to take away jobs or change the nature of jobs. But I'm still looking for a very concrete answer. Maybe perhaps more from an HRBP perspective, the generalist perspective. How do you see it, impacting the HRBP role? Maybe 3 concrete ways in which you feel it's going to dramatically, shift the HRBP role, or bring a shift in the HRBP role. Thank you.
Anyone, but I'll just add here that I think asking for a very concrete answer itself, I think, is not the right thing, because the world is VUCA, and I think the more early we accept that things are changing, and we have that foresight to understand, that we have to adapt to change, and we can also foresee some changes. But anyway, to answer to her question, I'll throw it to the panelists. 3 ways or maybe 2 ways the BP HR role can prepare herself or himself to the changes, the disruptive changes of AI.
Okay, so as I can see that, HR folks will have to rethink about their role. Because see, all the routine things will gradually be automated, okay? So, but then there is a, new areas of opportunity coming up for HR folks. Which are those areas? Those areas are like counseling, coaching, training people on how to become more empathetic, more compassionate, widening the perspective. So these are the new roles I can clearly see HRBP will have to do. You call them HRBP or whatever name you want to give. But these are the roles I am clearly seeing emerging, and whosoever would be ready to grab, be it HRBP or whatever,
Right.
okay, they'll be doing it.
Thank you, Sanjay. You want to add something?
Yeah,
Pooja?
I'll just quickly add one.
We don't have time much,
Your HRBP role will continue as is. These are going to be tools which are going to go ahead and come and augment yourself. The way your computers came in, the way your calculators came in, that's the way it's going to go ahead and get augmented. Being empathetic and all of it which goes and comes along is part of the HRBP function, and you'll just keep strengthening on that and you should be good.
All right, Pooja?
I can add, if you have a second, I can only say that, look, there's a difference between automation and AI. I think needless to say that HR has been one domain that has been largely, gifted with a lot of technology that has come our way, which has led to the automation of what Sanjay ji and whatever Sushant also said. From an AI standpoint, I find it very useful in certain aspects of the employee experience. So for example, at the time of hiring, it's extremely, extremely insightful to get AI insights without, one wasting their time in understanding a candidature, etc. Even as you go along, when it comes to learning and performance, there are different ways in which the data, AI ka matlab basically kya hai? It's basically when the data is helping you predict or it's helping you take a decision, right? So these are points where I feel there is still ample scope in which
Right.
there is a lot of promise that we see where AI can help HR take predictive decisions. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. I think we had a very interesting session, and I think the last question was so thought-provoking that we can have one more conference around that. So thank you so much for this session.